It's the main event of NXT. Joe Gacy versus Bron Breakker for the NXT Championship. Midway through the match though, through the crowd, comes Wardlow. He's dropped both Gacy and Breakker and the whole crowd is shocked. Wardlow walks towards the entrance as two security guards approach, and he just dismantles them both. Wardlow looks down the barrel of the camera and screams, "This is war!" The next week on Raw, the most recent arrival from AEW is of course under the microscope, that being Cody Rhodes. He's asked by Corey Graves in a pre-recorded interview whether he has anything to do with it. And Cody says, "Of course not. I understand why people ask because of my history there, but I honestly have no idea. All I know is that Tony Khan is a very passionate man. He takes this very seriously and he does everything for a reason." Later that night, Khan tweets. He says, "That was just a shot across the bow. Vince has always acted like other companies don't exist. Well, now he knows. Hashtag Forbidden Door. Hashtag Open for Business." Shortly after this tweet is sent, Vince storms out into the middle of the main event of Raw and he demands the camera. And his message is really simple. He says, "A shot across the bow? No one should even dare enter my airspace. That wasn't a shot. It was a declaration of war. And we accept." It's now Wednesday night, and you know what that means. Dynamite is underway, and Wardlow is in the middle of a match with a local talent. When, as perhaps anticipated, through the crowd comes Bron Breakker. A security guard attempts to stop him, but he is easily dispatched. The ruckus of the crowd gets Wardlow's attention, and he sees Breakker coming, and he welcomes it. Breakker rushes the ring, and the brawl is on. But Khan and AEW, they knew this was going to happen. They were ready. Here comes Danielson and the AEW champion, Jon Moxley. But Breakker has done the damage already, and he escapes through the hostile crowd, trash-talking as he leaves. It's now time for SmackDown, and things couldn't be more intense. McMahon has everyone on high alert. He says he didn't directly send Breakker to Dynamite, but he doesn't blame him for going. But it's then, on the monitor next to Vince, we see Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson of the Blackpool Combat Club, and they are standing in Vince McMahon's ring. He screams at the TV and he demands that somebody go out there. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins are the first through the curtain, and the brawl erupts all over the ringside area and in the ring. Rollins and Moxley have a deep history, we know that. Owens and Danielson are very familiar with each other as well. The crowd is going crazy. They can't believe their eyes. Backstage, we also see Wardlow and Breakker embroiled in a brawl as well. It's complete and utter chaos all over the building. But the camera then catches something very, very significant. It's Cody Rhodes. He's down. He's motionless. Someone has gotten to him, and the show goes off the air. Tension is at an all-time high. We learn that Cody has not been sighted since his injury, and there's no CCTV footage of the attack, and everyone is wondering just what could have happened to him. There's one key member of WWE though that we still haven't heard of. That is the undisputed champion, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Reigns says that he's the face of this company, and as the face of the company, he accepts the role of tribal chief of the entire WWE now. I'll once again put this company on my back and carry them. But this time, it isn't reluctant. This time, I want to carry this. I'm not going to let some amateur mud show promotion come in here and try and take food off my plate. So I'll tell you what, you want to step on my turf? I'll step on yours. I'll see you Wednesday. The AEW roster, as expected, is on high alert, but Tony Khan has told them not to assault Roman Reigns upon arrival. In fact, he wants Reigns to feel welcome. He says, "We actually welcome other companies to AEW. We actually acknowledge that they exist. And sure enough, as we're nearing the end of the show, here comes Reigns through the crowd. And my goodness, is he getting a vicious response from this partisan AEW crowd. Reigns soaks in the boos and he has a very short and sharp message. He says, AEW, acknowledge me. He is back. Kenny Omega has returned, and now the face of the WWE is about to be confronted by the face of AEW. The tension, the noise, the excitement is off the scales. Reigns seems unfazed, but you know he's burning inside. Omega gets right in his face and says, consider you and your company acknowledged. On Rampage later in the week, Britt Baker is in action against Toni Storm when up on the Tron, we see footage of Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch storming in from backstage in the parking lot. Baker and Storm immediately stop wrestling their match and they start gearing up for the inevitable fight. Sure enough, here comes Lynch and Charlotte down the ramp. They've broken their way in, and it's looking like we're going to get yet another chaotic brawl between the two companies. Lynch and Charlotte stop, however. What is going on? Charlotte looks right at Toni Storm and says, you can't walk away from this one this time, Toni. And with Storm and Baker distracted by Flair and Lynch, it becomes apparent that this was probably the plan because they both get assaulted by a returning Sasha Banks and Bayley. The four horsewomen have invaded Rampage and they lay out Storm and Baker with ease. Then, from the back, we see Jamie Hayter and Jade Cargill run down the ramp to try and get some revenge. They go at Charlotte and Becky, but they too get dispatched. We then see an image no one thought we would ever see. All four horsewomen in an AEW ring. For the next few weeks leading to Survivor Series, all the stars of both brands are in a war of words back and forth because security has been ramped up by both companies to avoid more invasions. But they don't want to leave it unresolved. They decide that at Survivor Series we're going to have two massive inter-promotional matches, both of which will be elimination style. It'll be Team AEW, Moxley, Danielson, Omega and Wardlow versus Team WWE, Rollins, Owens, Reigns and Breakker. On the women's side, it'll be Team AEW consisting of Cargill, Baker, Storm and Hayter versus Team WWE, Banks, Flair, Lynch and Bayley. We are down to two women, Banks and Baker, two absolute pillars of their companies. Baker attempts to cinch in the lockjaw, but it's countered by Banks. She attempts to lock in the Banks statement, but it's avoided as well. Then, here comes Hayter. She shouldn't be at ringside. She's eliminated, but she hands Britt Baker a chair. But Banks is wise to it. She avoids the shot, disarms Baker, and then nails a Meteora right onto the chair. She locks in the Banks statement, and Baker taps out. WWE have drawn first blood, and it couldn't be a better start. It's down to the two faces of their respected companies. Reigns looks for a clothesline on Omega, but he avoids it. Reigns nails the referee instead. Roman turns around and gets caught with a V-trigger. Omega is getting into position to nail the one-winged angel. But before he can, we see Cody Rhodes walking down the ramp. It's the first time we've seen him since he was laid out backstage weeks ago. He's face to face with Omega. Reigns is down. Omega is prepared and ready to fight. Rhodes then turns around, picks up Reigns, and he's seemingly helping him to his feet. But instead, he swings around and nails him with a crossroads. What on earth? Rhodes has downed Reigns. Omega can't believe it himself. He picks up Roman Reigns, he delivers the one-winged angel, and picks up the win for Team AEW. Cody walks back through Gorilla, and he's confronted by Vince McMahon. Vince says, "What the hell was that for?" Cody just looks at him for a moment and says, "For everything." The next night on Raw, Vince McMahon cold opens the show. He says that Cody Rhodes made a huge mistake last night. He made a dire choice, and he's going to pay for it. I'm going to unleash hell on him. The line is in the sand now, and I never lose. And that's why, since you've been so accommodating over there, Tony, I'll be accommodating here. I'm officially inviting all of you to the Royal Rumble. I'm even giving you 15 spots in the match itself. You fill it with whoever you want, and I'll do the same with my 15. Whoever is the last man standing wins. It's then we see the emergence of Cody Rhodes, and Vince is furious with just the sight of him. Cody says, "Vince, I know you're mad. Look, hey, I get it. But you didn't really think I'd come back here to help you, did you? I came back to bury you. Just like you buried me, by painting my face up like an idiot. I came back to plant my flag in the ground, and that flag says AEW. No one assaulted me. I set it up, just like I set up AEW from the ground up. This is my house. This is where I belong." But one thing you aren't, Vince, is silly. In fact, I think your idea of a joint Royal Rumble is genius. But let's put a little bit more sauce on it. How about the winning company gets to pick and choose their matches for, say, I don't know, the biggest pay-per-view in wrestling, WrestleMania. How about you put your money where your mouth is, Vince? How about you make WrestleMania AEW versus WWE? Vince barely thinks about it and he yells, "You're on! I'm gonna put AEW in the ground just like I put WCW in the ground, you selfish little prick. I told you I'm gonna put you through hell, and hell is at your doorstep right now." Vince wasn't lying. Hell arrived at the doorstep of Rhodes, and Lesnar is back. Lesnar is standing over Rhodes. Perhaps he's reconsidering his decision now. Chris Jericho is kicking off Dynamite. He says he knows WWE better than anybody here. He was the first ever undisputed champion. He beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the same night. But more than that, he knows Vince better than anybody here. And he knows that Vince won't stop. So that's why he feels like AEW needs to get aggressive. So he says, "I'm going to SmackDown. And Vince, you better roll out that goddamn red carpet for me, because I'm still the face of WWE, even when I'm not there. I'm still the most recognizable face to ever be there. So I'll see you on SmackDown, Vinny." Vince is in the ring and he says, "I hear Chris wants me to roll out the red carpet for him." Well, I am. I love Chris. I haven't got a bad word to say about him. He's in the back right now, separated, of course, from everybody so he doesn't get his ass kicked. But Chris, please, come on out. Jericho makes his entrance. He gets in the ring, and Vince says, "The floor is yours, Chris. Don't let me get in your way." And Vince leaves Jericho by himself. But before Jericho can even say a word, the lights go out. When the lights come on, Jericho is confronted by Balor and Priest of Judgment Day. We also see Rhea Ripley holding court up on the ramp looking very smug. Jericho realizes that this might have been a setup, but he's there to stand his ground. But it's then the lights go out again. When the lights come back on, Jericho is now flanked by the House of Black, and the crowd erupts. Jericho quickly dips out of the ring and leaves the House of Black face to face with Judgment Day. Ripley isn't alone either. Behind her is Julia Hart. They're all surrounded. When the lights come back on, the House of Black is gone, but the rubble of the battle is left in the form of downed Judgment Day members. But one man is still remaining from AEW, and that's Jericho. He's standing at the top of the stage and he says, "Is that what you call rolling out the red carpet, Vince? You think I'm a fool? Huh? You think..." Cena is here and he's looking right at Jericho. And he says, "Still the face of WWE even though you aren't here, right? Can you see me, Chris? I've always been the face that runs this place. So if you want a red carpet, let me roll one out for you. Because if you want some, come get some." Cena and Jericho are left in the Royal Rumble, but we are still waiting on number 29 and 30. Only 4 men can win it from here. It's MJF. We haven't seen MJF since he verbally abused Tony Khan. MJF gets in the ring and he is watching Cena and Jericho do battle. Because why would he get involved? He doesn't have to. They are doing all the heavy lifting. But then his smug nature changes very quickly. Punk is back in WWE, but he isn't here for WWE. Oh no, he's here to try and take them down. As Punk is on his way to the ring though, Cena manages to eliminate Jericho. It's MJF and Cena who are waiting. 2 absolute classic rivals of Punk. What a full circle moment. Punk gets in the ring and looks right at MJF and says, one time only, we're going to work together. We're going to get his ass out of here and we're going to do it for AEW. MJF looks reluctant, but he says, alright, one time only. They both jump Cena. He's no chance this late in the match at fighting off Punk and MJF. MJF puts on the Dynamite diamond ring. He blasts Cena with it. Then Punk picks him up, delivers a GTS, tosses Cena over the top rope, and AEW have won the Royal Rumble. There's no need to even continue. Or so we think. MJF has thrown Punk over the top rope. MJF says to Punk, who's now standing at ringside, I told you I wanted out, Tony Khan. I told you, Punk, I wanted out. I told you to f***ing fire me, you mark. Well, if you won't fire me, I'm gonna f***ing quit. I signed with WWE, you f***ing piece of shit. CM Punk slides back in the ring to try and get MJF, but he gets dropped by the diamond ring. Punk is out. MJF leaves the ring, and Vince McMahon is standing, waiting at the top of the ramp. MJF joins him, and they stand side by side, and Vince says, I always win. Now we're on the road to arguably the biggest WrestleMania of all time, but because of the result of the Royal Rumble, it will be WWE that gets to choose the matches. And that's exactly what Vince McMahon is out here to do. He says that last night he proved that he's the true mastermind and the true innovator in this industry. MJF made the choice that Cody should have. MJF jumped off the sinking ship. It's then that we finally see two men that we haven't seen at all. The Young Bucks. They come out in front of Vince, and they're both looking poised for a super kick, but out runs MJF. He's there to back up his new boss in Vince. MJF is warning the Bucks to step away, when from behind, here comes CM Punk, and he takes it to MJF, and they fight all the way off the stage in a wild brawl. The Young Bucks are still standing in front of Vince, poised again, but this time, Roman Reigns steps out. He's standing behind his boss as well, and Reigns didn't come alone. The Bloodline join him, and the Usos start brawling with the Young Bucks all the way off the stage as well. Reigns is still standing defiant behind Vince, but he's quickly greeted by a very fired up Kenny Omega. It's absolute chaos, and the two faces of WWE and AEW are brawling again. This has gotten completely out of hand. This is the most combustible road to WrestleMania we've perhaps ever seen. It's the final Raw before WrestleMania, and unbelievably, Tony Khan has organised with TBS to air against Raw. It's one final shot at WWE, and to say that chaos ensued is an understatement. Every single major rivalry explodes across both shows. The chaos has gotten absolutely out of control, and there is zero order. Cody is going toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar in the ring, and Cody is in trouble as you would expect. It's then we see one of the most shocking arrivals so far. Sting hits the ring with no fear of Brock Lesnar. This is an image we never thought we'd see. Sting and Lesnar going at it, and Cody eventually is able to hit Lesnar with a crossroads while he's distracted with Sting. Rhodes knows it's going to take a hell of a lot more than that though, and they brawl all the way through the crowd and out into the street. Everyone is on their feet, and Sting is the only man left standing in the ring. The WrestleMania card has taken shape and the event is here. On night one, we see an 8-women rematch between Baker, Cargill, Hayter and Storm versus the 4 Horsewomen, with Toni Storm getting redemption by pinning Charlotte Flair again. We also see a major dream match between the Young Bucks and the Usos, with the Usos somehow eking out a close one. We get a mat classic between Danielson and Owens, where Danielson is able to choke Owens unconscious with a triangle in one of the best matches of the night. The next one was all about respect. It was an emotional match between Edge and Christian, which ended with Edge digging down deep and finding a spear off an unpretty reversal. Both men showing nothing but love after the match with a great show of respect. Hangman Adam Page versus AJ Styles in a battle of future versus the present. Hangman was able to pick up one of the biggest wins of his career after a classic contest. The penultimate match pits Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, and it is an absolute war that is dominated largely by Lesnar. Rhodes shows that true grit that he's well known for, but it's not enough. After 2 consecutive F5s, Cody is down for the 1, 2, 3. Undertaker versus Sting is the main event of night 1. One more time, for the first time. Sting tries valiantly, but ultimately falls short after he tries to hit the tombstone on the Undertaker, but he reversed it into a tombstone of his own. Night 1 goes off the air with the classic pose. Night 2 kicks off hot with the House of Black versus Judgment Day. This one feels personal and dangerous. It ends in explosive fashion. Balor looks for a coup de grace, but Black pops up and boom! Black Mass wipes out Balor and Black gets the pin. We then travel all the way back to where it started. It's Wardlow versus Braun Breaker. 2 men who are the future of the industry. They have a crazy intense match that sees Wardlow pick up the win after a brutal symphony of powerbombs. Then it's time for a good old-fashioned hoss fight. It's Miro taking on Bobby Lashley. It ends with Lashley actually being able to break the game over, but Miro couldn't do the same to the Hurt Lock. Lashley holds it in so long that Miro passes out from the pain. Lashley gets the big win. Then it was on to a classic tag team encounter between RK Bro and FTR. 2 contrasting styles, but it was the sheer continuity between FTR that was able to get them the win. They were just too good on the night, but perhaps if they would have run it back, it would be a different story. Bianca Belair versus Thunder Rosa is next. This is a battle of 2 champions, and right in the final stages, Rosa takes a risk from the top, gets caught and nailed with a KOD and pinned. Moxley versus Rollins is up next, and this is a war. Both men beat the stuffing out of each other and it gets violent. It breaks down to a point where Moxley has to go to the extreme to put Rollins away. He lands a paradigm shift on a pile of weapons on the outside, rolls Rollins into the ring, gets the pin. The bit of personal rivalry and perhaps the most unlikely AEW versus WWE match is on. MJF, who is astoundingly now representing WWE, is in an intense battle with CM Punk, who is fighting against everything he left behind all those years ago. The referee is down. MJF goes under the ring. He's looking for the ring, the Dynamite diamond ring he's used to win multiple matches. He doesn't realise, but CM Punk has the ring on his own hand. And MJF gets in the ring and boom! Punk lays him out with the ring, picks him up, and delivers a massive GTS for the win. It's the main event, the dream match of a lifetime, the match everyone in wrestling has wanted to see. Who is the best, Omega or Reigns? 2 of the best performers over the last 2 years without competition. Omega and Reigns engage in a modern day classic, both men searching for supremacy, and it all comes down to this. Omega has Reigns in position for yet again the one-winged angel, but Reigns avoids. He jumps off the shoulders. Omega panics. He looks for the V-trigger, but Reigns avoids that as well. He builds momentum. Boom! He nails a spear. But he's not done. He knows he needs to put Omega away properly. Lines him up. He nails him with a second one. Reigns has done it. He's won the dream match of a century, but only just. But it was never about the numbers. It was never about championships. It was all about the spectacle and the 2 companies fighting it out for the love of professional wrestling and also to defend their turf. A historic WrestleMania goes off the air with Roman Reigns and Kenny Omega, the 2 pillars of both of their companies, the two best wrestlers in the world, shaking hands.